Detroit to me, which I had never seen until I moved here in 1982, was like a vast coming home. I don't think I've ever gone to any place in this country where at the very first encounter I felt as if I had in some profound sense come home. And by come home I mean come to the place that we all of us seem collectively to have come from. It was profound, mystical, but I don't mean to make it sound mystical. I felt like I had arrived at the place where all of the things that I lived inside of as an American came from.
In Detroit, the dream feels more real, with its resultant injustice and suffering, and with the independence and possibility it offers. It has given us the bustling manufacturing plants, as well as the urban decay of neighborhoods ridden with poverty and drugs. But really, we are the people who made it in the first place. This fact of responsibility is as damning and as liberating as Detroit itself. Although life is bleak in many areas, it's up to the people of Detroit, as well as this nation, to determine what happens to the city that was once the engine of the American dream.
There's a certain amount of freedom here. There's the financial situation isn't great, and the infrastructure situation is not good here, and there's so many things that are falling apart and not up to par in Detroit. But there's also so many things that are unique and awesome and just free. Like I said, like with this skate spot, we're building this, nobody's bothering us. People that do walk through here to fish on the river are just stoked about it, So skating around the city too, being a rollerblader and kind of skating spots around here, you kind of are searching for freedom anyways, and I think we really find that in Detroit. So if I had to pick one phrase, 5 o'clock today, I would say it's freedom. You ask me tomorrow, it might be something else.
Oh God, one of the greatest cities and home in the world. I wouldn't trade it for no place I've ever been. I think Detroit's the greatest. It is the greatest. I've been to a lot of places. I've played and hustled pool all over Michigan. I played pool in all of them at different times. For money, we'd go there and play the best player that they got, and I never lost. I always come home with the money.
Detroit is a jewel. Almost a diamond in the rough, I would say. Detroit has produced over the years hundreds of stars, hundreds of quality folks, thousands of quality folks, and I believe it'll continue to do that. It's just in a state of emergency right now where the people that are dedicated to the city really have to dig in and pull up their sleeves and get busy and help those folks that are in need by providing education and training, basically teaching people how to fish is what this city is in need of.
The first word that comes to me is home. I have so much love, so much pride and attachment to Detroit, and I know that when the Detroit Tap Repertory, whenever we travel out of state, we're always really proud. We always make a point to say where we're from, where we're coming from, and I see it as my home. I'm very excited about my role here. One of the best compliments I got was from a restaurant manager in downtown Detroit when I was telling him about my event and trying to work on some promotions with him. He said, "We need more people like you here." And that compliment really meant a lot to me. So I see my role, just continuing to grow, and I'm very happy with the direction that's going in.
I got the simple one-word answer. It's home. I grew up here, and I don't know if I'll die here, but I've lived in a couple of other cities, all of them within the Midwest. None of them feel this good. And there's just something that's not right about anywhere but here.
I always imagined I would leave Detroit. I have been leaving since I was 16. So traveling and moving, and I've lived in London, I've lived in Chicago, I've lived in New York. And every time I leave, Detroit just sinks a little bit deeper into me. And every time I go a little bit further away, I see so much possibility and so much potential here. It's become home. It was a spot I never expected to become home, but it is home now.
Since Detroit is like this empty city, the so-called empty city with nobody in it and nothing in it, even though that's not true, there's tons of stuff. And I've graduated from college and I've had a job, I've got some money saved up. I can do whatever I want to do right now. There's nothing holding me back. And I really feel like the city, there's kind of, you know, it's at a low point obviously, but I really think that it's at a turnaround. And we're kind of in the same blank slate, and it's the same situation where I can do whatever I want to do, and the city can turn around if it wants to turn around. And the people just sort of have to come together and decide to do this, just like I'm deciding to do this for myself. So it's, I think it's a really good match. I think it's going to work out.
Someone said to me, why Detroit? And I said, why Detroit? It's like saying, why Paris or why London? It's the most unbelievably exciting, complex city that I'd say the state or the country has to offer. So I live in Ann Arbor. We lived in Detroit for a summer and we loved it. And every time I get to go to Detroit, which is pretty much 5 days a week, I feel my heart race because I love being in a city with people, with chaos, with chance for random encounter. And so yeah, Detroit is Paris, it's New York, it's London, it's Lagos. It's every complex city, but it has its own unique questions that we should never lose sight of, which have to do with the history of the auto industry, the history of race in America, the history of innovative music, and I can't believe I get to live and work in such an interesting place.
Some Detroit citizens are predicting that the city may evolve into a cultural hub, maybe a place of digital and internet revolution, possibly the first city in America to set the example for organic, urban sustainability. Where once the goal was to attain the dream through manufacturing, the ground is flat and buildings are empty. This is not the shining future people had once envisioned for Detroit, nor is it the final unavoidable conclusion. Detroit itself is still a symbol of endless American possibility in both its past successes and its current efforts to rebuild, and Detroit's conditions are a catalyst to action, demanding help to alleviate the suffering. In light of past eras, we must find a new definition of the American dream, one that does away with the hidden selfishness of old. The best take on the American dream allows for freedom to redefine a problem and the resources to work out a solution, and the will to repeat this process over and over and over until we get it right.
Detroit feels like the once and future. I just feel like it was a very futuristic city, and it put a lot of new things into the world. And then now a lot of new things have been happening elsewhere. It lost its gravity. Some bad stuff happened here. Pretty much a systematic failure of a lot of things. And now there's a feeling that there's a new opportunity to take some of the lessons from technology, from the internet, from green things, more sustainable living, and put them all together here in an urban environment that showcases its, you know, absolutely mighty and wealthy past and its buildings and everything. But now it's going to grow in different and be futuristic again. You know, people will get inspired again. So yeah, the once and future. Does that make sense?
No, but nothing you say does.
It's been very much just like a relationship. It's gone through some different phases. You loved it because it was sort of like, it was something so promising, and you loved the city so much, but you hated it because of so much of the dysfunction and a lot of the leadership. You saw the potential of like what it could be, but it was really frustrating because you felt like your wheels were always spinning and you didn't really go anywhere. And there's so much red tape with the city and that sort of thing, and you wish more people would start to show up, you know, for your show or event sometimes. You just kind of, you accept it for what it is, and you just say, you know what, this is my home and I need to change it, and I need to get more people involved. I need to, it's sort of like after a while you realize that you need the support of other people, and you can't do it on your own. And there are power in numbers, and so you start to collaborate with more people. You don't feel like, you know, your voice or your vision is the only way that you can do it. You have to allow others from the outside to both critique it and come in and share it.
Detroit to me is truly a city of faith. And what I'm getting ready to say might sound corny, because I was not a follower of Dr. Martin Luther King and nonviolence. But that little speech when he said, instead of saying the Negro's spiritual, Detroit gonna prove to the world we gonna be the human spiritual. And it's gonna be faith of whites, faith of gays, faith of Muslims, faith of people from Pakistan, from the world. And it's gonna be, as he said, hand in hand. because it's going to be people, it's from the soul. And you young kids, I swear so help me. If I thank God for one thing, from the world I saw, a world of violence. My whole life, it was violence, racial violence. I thank God that he let me, or she let me live to see that this world will be saved and a great place to live in. You guys doing a movement, a spiritual movement, I guess like early Christianity, Christians. We old people, we the Romans, who looked at those Christians like they were crazy. And believe it or not, I was one of those Romans who looked at you young white kids and black kids hanging around here like y'all was crazy. Y'all have a movement that's taking place, man. History will record. I probably won't live to see it. But you guys are changing humanity, and y'all doing it non-violently. That's amazing. It's what I call the young people riot. And y'all doing it. Y'all actually are rioting because y'all going against a lot of the old customs. Y'all not scared to love people who don't look like you.
Detroit to me is the vehicle to change the world for good and to create, I really believe, some type of world peace. When we have so many different types of religions here and so many different types of industry, that can give us a chance to really kind of figure out how can the world all work together with all of our differences, our different philosophies and points of view, our different physical looks. So this could really kind of be that testing ground or vehicle to, again, be a model for the rest of the world.
You got to engage the camera a little bit more.
I know.
You can just talk to him. Larry Mongo.
Oh, how you doing?
Pleasure, sir.
Oh, look, we got people famous from all over. I'm sorry. Famous writer, Detroit News. Another famous writer.
But I had those moments when we were boarding up the Roosevelt Hotel. I had one of those moments where I was like, why the am I boarding up the Roosevelt Hotel?
Nice language.
I was like,